My name is Becker, and I will be telling you why I enjoy the Swahili language so much. I had to learn it for work, but I think it is also one of the best things I have ever done to learn Swahili. To start us off, this popular cartoon from a Swahili newspaper is useful. It's called Kipanya, Little Mouse. There's the mouse. So who are the other characters? On the left, we have Kamati, the committee, marked out as a well-off middle-aged person by his girth, his suit, his bald pate, his glasses. Then there is Serikali. This is a younger man dressed in a gangster style, the baseball cap, the shades, and he is robbing us, Sisi. We are dressed as what in Swahili you'd call a mnyonge, i.e. a somewhat wretched, marginal person, robbing us by using Kodi Zaidi, more taxes. So what's everyone saying here? Well, Kamati is saying, if he doesn't have anything, just take his trousers. The government is saying, there's urine in them. We've peed ourselves. And we are saying, we'll wash them for you, brother gangster. So what we see in this is a sharp eye for the expression of social distinction through clothing, a critical attitude to government abuse, and a somewhat grim sense of humor. All qualities I have found often in people in Tanzania. By the way, the Tanzanian flag is the background to the slides here. What is also true is that if you look at these sentences, they are rather shorter. They have less words in Swahili than we need in English. And this is because Swahili is a language where you can do a lot in one word. I'll show you how. So, nitaifua. The ni is the I. The ta marks the future, like will in an English sentence. The I is the it, and the fua is to wash. So, a sentence, I will wash it in a word. Now, in the unlikely event that the government would want to acknowledge the fact that we've washed our trousers for it, it could say, umenifulia, you, u, me, marking the past, ni, me, and the kufua has become kufulia. The li represents the for. Because this is another thing that you do a lot in Swahili. There is a modular system for verb roots that allows you to modify the meaning. I'll show you with one example. Kujua means to know. Kujuana means to know each other. The na makes the verb mutual. Kujulikana means to be known, to be common knowledge. The kana denotes a state. And then the sh or lish in this word marks what is called the causative. You make somebody know something, you let somebody know. So you get, again, one-word sentences such as nitam julisha, I will let him or her know, or ana julikana, he, she, is well known. Swahili does not bother with grammatical gender, so it's the same pronouns for he, she, and it. There are also rather interesting subtexts, associations in the words in Swahili, which, like in any language, really come in families. So for instance, nyoka is a noun that means snake. Kunyoka, the associated verb, means to be straight, which I find interesting because in the English language, if you say something snakes, you mean it's not straight. But there you have it. Njia ina nyoka, the way is straight. Meanwhile, kukaa is a verb which means to reside, to live somewhere. And this is one of my favorite. Kazi, a noun derived from it, means work. So here we have a language that acknowledges that running a home is work. So where do we find this fascinating language? Swahili is spoken by over 200 million people, which makes it one of the 10 biggest languages of the world in terms of speakers. And it is spoken in this large region in the east of Africa, comprising all these countries listed there. It originated on what is still known as the Swahili coast. It has been spoken there for over 1,000 years. And of these old cities on the coast, each one used to have, to some extent still has, its own form, its own dialect of Swahili. Swahili belongs to the largest African language family, which, depending on where exactly you draw the line between a dialect and a separate language, has up to 700 members with over 350, close to 400 million speakers. It is totally a Bantu language in structure, but it has taken on loan words from a lot of languages around the Indian Ocean, Arabic, Hindi, Portuguese, and English prominent among them. Now, the one sentence in Swahili that people in Europe are most likely to know is Hakuna Matata from the Lion King film, meaning there's no problem. That sentence exists, but often Swahili proverbs are actually a lot more complicated in their meanings. So the first sentence here, Lima Juani Ule Kibulini, means cultivate in the sun so you can eat in the shadow. So it is an exhortation to hard work. It suggests that hard work pays. You cultivate in the sun. You'll have a comfortable time afterwards. The next sentence, though, someone who is drunk on wine will sober up, but somebody who's drunk on wealth will not, suggests a rather critical attitude to what can happen to people who have a bit too much comfort in their lives. The next one is particularly rich in possible interpretations. Msafiri ni aliyepwani, the traveler is the one who is on the shore. So this could mean, well, if you want to do something, you've got to show up, you've got to be there. It could also mean that sometimes you just get lucky. You are the one who is on the shore when the ship shows up. And then the last one is, again, somewhat grim, perhaps, but I think very observing. Kikulacho kikunguoni mwako. That which bites you sits in your clothes. This is a factual statement about, for instance, fleas. But it also points to the fact that the people who can hurt us the most are the people who are close to us. Okay. Also notable, a slightly longer form of writing is Swahili poetry. On the left here, we have a handwritten Arabic script version of a famous 19th century Swahili poem, which is about the transitoriness of the world. It's about ruined palaces and such things. On the right, we have a typical newspaper poem, because in Swahili, ordinary newspapers print poems which are sent in by the readers. This one, the form, the 4 stanzas with sort of a pause in the middle of each line, that's very typical. The title of the poem means death, you have no mercy. But there's also a lot of love poetry or advice, just musings, which ordinary people send to the newspapers for publication. That line about death having no mercy already pointed towards something that is also remarkable about Swahili. It is a language that has compassion built into it, that has very rich ways of expressing compassion, expressing solidarity. Pole is a word that you may have heard because it occurs in some relatively well-known East African music, but it is actually a complete sentence, the translation of which is approximately, I'm sorry for your troubles. You say this in all sorts of situations. Somebody just got a phone call to tell them that a relative has died, pole. Somebody stubbed their toe. also pole. But it is very clearly about commiserating with somebody. The word for sorry, samahani, is a completely different story. And there are, again, some interesting redeployments of the word pole, such as pole pole, meaning slowly or gently. Upole is the quality of gentleness, and mtum pole is a gentle person. Upole is a valued quality which is often seen to be somewhat in short supply with Europeans who tend to get worked up quite quickly, for instance, if something doesn't work to their expectations. Another notable feature is that current history shows up in language in Swahili. So the first word here, Mwana Beijing, is a reference to the International Women's Conference, which I think took place in 1998 and ended with a declaration of the rights of women. Hence, Mwana means child of. So a child of Beijing is an assertive woman, a woman who knows her rights. Next, Kuosama, yeah. This derives from the first name of the best-known international terrorist of the 2000s, Osama bin Laden. The attacks on the US in 2001 were noticed far and wide, and the verb kuosama denotes beating somebody really badly, such as in the phrase, Yanga kuosama Simba, the Yanga football club beat hell out of Simba Football Club. And lastly, Ki Kosovo denotes something small and inadequate, like, for instance, very poor accommodation provided to some of the students at the University of Dar es Salaam. This was in response to the very widely noted news of the wars in the Balkans in the 1990s. Now, these are all examples from the last 2-3 decades. Lastly, I'll give you a newer one. Kichwa Chambuni means ostrich head. There it is. It looks angry, doesn't it? This is currently also used as a colloquial way to refer to a very well-known politician. And I suspect some of you will guess. Yes, it's Trump. And if you look closely, it's not obvious, but if you look at the wispy hair and the line of the mouth, I think you find that once again, Swahili speakers are on to something. They've noticed something that's not completely obvious, but it's definitely there, which is another example of how Swahili just makes bad situations better sometimes. It's a language from far away, and as you've seen, people do things differently in Swahili. But nevertheless, these words from somewhere else entirely can help enrich and deepen the understanding of one's own life for people here in Europe, half a world away. Thank you very much.